I am thrilled to be here. Listen, I'm going to teach you something because I don't think you realize this. You are a celebrity. You put a lot of years and a lot of hard work into the wrestling business. Therefore, you are a professional. You know about the business that a lot of people don't know. You can deliver information. You can educate people. You're not one of these dirt sheet hacks that think they know what they're talking about and don't have a clue. And, with that, I am a stern believer in there is a price for that. And that's why I learned a long time ago when people contact me to do a podcast, I mean, let's face it, unless it's Piers Morgan, I'm not going to benefit from your podcast. You're going to benefit from me being on your podcast. So I learned a long time ago, I charge for my time when I do a podcast. You're going to get the hits and you're going to get the clicks. I'm not going to benefit in any way. So I only do interviews now where basically I get paid and I put the time aside and we schedule it and I do it very professionally. But when my muse comes calling, I'm stopping everything. The only thing I asked you and I felt very, very bad about, but we discussed it before the show, was I start very, very early. Because, I live in Colorado. I love living in Colorado. I love the summers. I go in my Jeep. I take the top off. And when you live in Colorado, like wherever you drive, there's mountains and there's scenery. And that's where I find exactly what you're doing. That's where I find my peace and my tranquility. So what I try to do is get all my work done in the morning, schedule everything really early. And as soon as I'm done fulfilling all my obligations and doing my podcast, I am in that Jeep and I am out on the road. So I knew, and you're an hour earlier than me. So I knew I was really backing you up, but I appreciate you doing this very, very early.
Well, as I mentioned to you before we're recording, I benefit from that because people always tell me, "Oh my god, you're up so early." It's still not even early enough. I used to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I benefited from it, and people would always give me a hard time, but I didn't care. I was my best self when I was consistently waking up at 4 a.m., 4 to 4:30 given, and when I was that version of me, mind, body, and soul was more balanced, and I just felt the most me, and for years, I've been trying to get back to that version, but of course, wiser with all this experience I've had in life since then. But it's all started with getting up early
Mhm.
and having that time, and I think that a lot of performers don't realize that they maybe need to get up early like that, whether you have a podcast or you're a talent or a wrestler, whatever it is. I think creative people need to get up early in general just to have that moment to themselves and set the pace for the day. Like for you, you're like, get everything out of the way so I can go back to my place. And
Mhm.
then for me, it's like I don't know where I'm going to be at in my mental health in any given day. So for me, I realized if I wake up at 4, I have many hours to get myself together for whatever the day. And then if it just takes me 5 minutes and I'm good, awesome. But sometimes it takes hours for me to be like, oh, especially back in the day, like when I was on the road and stuff like that, my body would be hurting. The last thing I'd want, like it just took forever. So I think they look at getting up early as this like, oh, I can't even imagine. But if you don't have to get up at 4 people, but like just earlier to have that time to yourself. I think that we don't think about those things. And I've always been aware of it because of my mental health and trying to attack. I remember back in like 2011, I was like, what do I need to do? And I was like, dude, I just need to get up earlier.
Well, you know what it is? What you're really talking about is, and it makes all the difference in the world. What you're really talking about is you controlling the time rather than have the time control you. That's exactly what you're talking about. And what is the key word there? Control. and you can control it. So if you control the time and you know at 8 o'clock I'm going to do this, at 9 o'clock I'm going to do this, at 10 o'clock I'm going to do this, rather than wake up and now it's chaos. Now there aren't enough hours in the day to get done what I need to get done. So it really does come down to control. It really comes down to just controlling your time.
Amen to that, because I grew up in a household where my mom was habitually late, but she would take it out, those frustrations, on, "Hurry up, Shelly." Da, da, da. So I grew up feeling like I always have to rush.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that I've been, to this day, I still try to work on. I've gotten a lot better, but I've noticed that I make a lot of mistakes when I'm rushing.
Mm-hmm.
The anxiety and panic and feeling unsafe sucks. And
Mm-hmm.
so then those triggers are going on. Well, at the same time, you're trying to get whatever you're being hurried to be done and complete. And it's like a whole thing. Oh, just talking about it right now is freaking me out. But it's like, that's another reason why I wanted to get up early, because I would think about that. I don't want to be rushed. I don't want anyone to rush me. It's funny. I watch this channel, Me TV. They have all the throwbacks. I'm sure you're
Yeah.
aware of Me
Yeah,
TV.
of course.
And then one of the commercials they have is different sound bites from different shows. And I believe it was a MASH. I think it's MASH. I'm not sure, but it's a sound bite and it says, "Stop rushing me. You're making me nervous." And it's like, yes, dude,
Yeah.
stop rushing me. You're making me nervous. And taking, you saying that it's taking control of time, now all the dots are connecting for me, because that was fine. Every time I've been consistently getting up early, I have felt more in control of my life, therefore making better decisions and in a better place, versus when I don't. And
Yeah.
that's where it starts from, is having control of time.
And even when you have control of time, it leads into a problem, because this is what has happened to me. And like, I don't even know how I got into this. And it's something that needs to be corrected, because like I told you, my podcasting starts every day at 8 o'clock. Okay. Whether it's one show, two show, three shows, however many shows I have. And I try to be done by noon. That's what I try to do. I try to be done by noon. Somehow or another, with my schedule over the years, I'm done at noon, but then I got to go back at 6 o'clock and start all over again. And that's, I don't even know how it got into that. I guess I got into that by never being able to say no. I don't know about you. And listen, I am not a guy that, believe me, money is the least important thing to me. It really, really is. But I have problems with leaving money on the table. And, in my case, because I always think about, something happens to me, my wife, she's going to have what's left. You know what I mean? So I always think about that. Oh man, I'm going to pass up doing this for a couple $100. And I get so guilty that I can't pass that up. But I am getting to the stage in life, and you're nowhere near this stage. I'm getting to the stage of life. I'm going to be 65 in January, where now my time and the value of my time just supersedes everything. Everything. Because I think when you reach a certain age, I think mortality kicks in. I think you start realizing I'm closer to the end than I am to the beginning. And I think what really starts becoming very important to you is, I'm only going to do the things that I want to do. And I'm sure you're the same way, man. Throughout my entire life, other people were in control of my life. Being in the wrestling business, we got to be here at this time. You got to be on a plane. You got to do this. You got to do that. And we put in so much time and sacrificed so much time and took so much time away from ourselves, that I just believe the older you get, every minute is valuable to you. And that's what I'm really working on. I'm really working on eliminating things one by one by one, so I have that time to myself to do whatever I want.
Here's the thing. I just want to say this because I do. I've been praying for a sign, and you right now breaking that down right now is God's confirmation to me, to my private conversations I've been having with him, that this is my confirmation. So thank you for that. Because as the good old Bible says, the true renewal of faith is doubt.
Hmm.
And so I just want to say here on this Friday, thank you, Lord. Second of all, I get it. And here's the thing. I don't know if I've told you this before. I might have, maybe not. My obsession with vampires stems from my death anxiety. And so I feel like me being hyper aware of death since I was a kid and around disgusting situations that and seeing things I shouldn't that just traumatize me, that has always been my thing. That's why vampires to me were appealing because I was like, they don't die. And to me, having that death anxiety since a kid, whatever. So that's in a way what's always saved me, because when I've been presented going down this road or this road, what stopped me going from that road is my death anxiety and everything that comes with it, making everything very real, right? So going back to what you're saying, I think because I've been so hyper aware of that, I in the last specifically 4 years now, 3, 4 years, I'm like totally on that path. And then when I was on that path before, that was the Shelly that I was talking about before that I've been trying to reconnect with that used to get, or that was me in like my 30s, right? And so I've lived that life before, and that's when I was my most balanced. And then life happened, beat me up. I got in a bad mood for all these years after, right? And so I've really been trying to get back to that. And it goes back to exactly what you said right now. I get so caught up because my whole being has always been a hustle, whether it was modeling, acting, or being a wrestler or whatever. So my feeling safe to myself is you can't turn a gig down, like you're saying. Like,
Hmm. Hmm.
hello, this is what I do. This is what I bring to the table. This is especially when you have a family. It's like this is what I'm bringing to the table to help the family out. So it's like inside you, it's your second nature to be like, you can't just be like, oh, so it's a very difficult thing to have to monitor and say, what is worth your time? What am I supposed, and it's not even about that. It's what am I supposed to be doing? Is this an alignment of what I'm supposed to be doing? Because if it's not, like in your case, I'm supposed to be out in my Jeep out there. That's what my true alignment is. So is it or not? And it's a hard thing, especially when you're that hustler and that's what you bring to the table. And I think that's why a lot of people in the entertainment business or any kind of people that have like that kind of mentality in whatever they do for their career, that's like one of the hardest things to do is to truly choose your peace and what brings you everything. And even if that costs not taking that gig over there
Yeah.
because you feel like, ah, like you said, leaving money on the table. Like
Yeah.
that's the best way to put it because that's how you're feeling. It's not like, oh no, I don't, it's fine. I'd rather be doing this. That's not what happens. It's like, I'm leaving money on the table.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not so simple to be like, oh, la di da.
Yeah.
So, anyways.
We have to have a conversation because let's have a conversation. And maybe this is why this podcast was meant to happen today. And we were meant to be together and talk because you said you have a death anxiety. I've got that same death anxiety. I have been a hypochondriac my whole entire life. I have an absolute fear of death. Now, here's where I get pissed off at myself because you you just mirrored my thoughts and my feelings. And it pisses me off because at the end of the day, it really tells me the The death anxiety comes from not having absolute faith. Because you talked about, before you talked about a death anxiety, you talked about the Bible and the God and praying. Okay. Well, if we had 100% absolute faith in God, there would be no death anxiety. And that's where I'm always fighting with that, because as a Christian, I want to have 100% faith in God. And part of that faith would be not fearing death. Because, you brought up the Bible. Listen, man, the Bible makes it crystal clear. This world that we live in is hell. This world that we live in is run by the devil. This world that we live in is all about money, power, greed, and ego that nobody experienced better than you and me in the wrestling business. That is this world. And a lot of people say, well, how come God doesn't intervene? How come God doesn't do this? And how come God doesn't do that? Because people don't understand. Okay. Go back to Genesis. Okay. God created man and woman and put them in the Garden of Eden, paradise, the perfect world, everything we needed. You never did. You didn't age. You didn't get sick. There was no war. It was absolute paradise. And all he said, the only order from him was, obey me, obey me. And what did we do? We did not obey him, and we sinned. And when you go back to Adam and Eve and they brought sin into the world, that's why we live in the world we live in. That is on us. We went against God and we sinned. And from that moment on, we have to deal with sin. So God knows full well the world that we live in. And this world, I really believe, is just, it's a learning ground. It really is a learning ground. And we have to try to somehow, manage our way through it, go through the peaks and go through the valleys and the good times and the bad times, and just somehow navigate our way through it. I believe the meaning of life is, and this is what I think everybody should be concentrating on, and I really do concentrate on this. I believe this is the meaning of life. God created every single one of us for a reason. Okay, when you think about it, is God really going to create you if there's no purpose for you? Do you really think God is going to waste his time and give you life when he has no meaning for you whatsoever? So I believe every single one of us will put here with a purpose. I always look at it like as a giant jigsaw puzzle. We are all a piece of the puzzle. And the meaning of life is to have that ongoing relationship with God, like you said, through reading his word, through praying, and searching, what is it that you put me here for? What is it that only I can accomplish for you and your kingdom? That's what life is all about. And that's what the concentration should constantly be about, is what is my purpose here? You created me. There's nobody else like me. There's a job that only I can do. What is that job? What is it that you want me to do? That is the meaning of life. And then, once this journey is complete, the Garden of Eden awaits us. And I mean, that is crystal clear in the Bible, that we're not living for this life. We're living for eternal life. That's what we're living for. And that goes back to peace, love, understanding, no war, no sickness, no hate, no crime, a perfect, peaceful world. That's where we are going to rest as long as we are believers. So that's why I always struggle with, if that is the case, and I do believe that wholeheartedly, wholeheartedly, then why is it so difficult to get over this fear of death when the reality of it is we are going from hell to heaven? I mean, that's really, my hang up is this, and I want to get your thoughts on this. I think my biggest fear of death is missing the people behind. And let's face it, when I say the people behind, I'm only talking about my family. I really am. I'm talking about my wife. I'm talking about my 3 kids. I'm talking about my grandkids. That's really what I'm talking about. Like, oh my God, like the thought of not seeing them and the thought of, just missing them. That really is the fear. But again, that's always the struggle with me is absolute faith means you believe in his word, you know what this world is, you know what the afterlife is, and it really is, it is absolute faith. We are failing to have absolute faith if we have that fear of death. And that always bothers me because I do believe without a shadow of a doubt, but I guess I don't believe as much as I should if I fear death.
A couple things. First of all your points, I totally 1000% get and agree with. For me, even in my darkest times, I've never not known God to be in my life. I've never been one of these people to be like, and no offense, when I say these people, I'm not me trying to be a jerk, but like, I'm not a person that came to God later in life. I'm not a person that came to God and like late. Oh, sorry, I got thrown off right now. You know what? Getting so distracted right now, and I know why. So I'm gonna just take a breath for a second. So I've never not and I've never been or one of these people that are like, "God, how can you do this?" or whatever. Because anytime something ugly has happened to where there should be every reason to say that,
Mhm,
I've always felt like it's somehow, some way God's will. So I've always been that person.
mhm,
And for me, my struggle is I don't know if I'm supposed to be praying to Jesus or not. Because years ago in 2011, I've always resonated with the Old Testament. I grew up Christian household. I grew up in a Christian school. Um, Even though a lot of it was shady, I'm really grateful because like I said, I've never not known God to be in my life. Like never. Like I've never that's just my relationship with God started from my earliest memory. Like that's just it. And that's what saved me, like I said, when I'm at these crossroads, is I've been afraid as growing up in that because the church I grew up in, I'm not trying to be a jerk, but it was a very cult-like kind of church. So there's a lot of brainwashing and I had that Christian guilt hard. And so when I'd be at these crossroads, I'd be like, I don't want to go to hell. I don't want to go to hell, that death anxiety. So that's what made me solely not go this way and then go this way. So my fear of never want not messing up because growing up it's like if you mess up you're going to go to hell, you're going to go to hell. So that being in like just on me all the time, I was always afraid to go to hell. So that's a part of the death anxiety because like, oh, I messed up and am I going to go to hell for this little thing? And then when 2011 came around, resonated with the Old Testament. Long story short as I can make it, that's when I learned about the Messianic Jewish community, AKA Jews for Jesus. And there was an app I found at the time because this is 2011. So this is like before apps were a thing. And that's what they promoted. And it was really cool because I was like, dude, as a Christian, I should know these Jewish roots that Jesus had. And so it totally made sense. And to this day, that's the like church, I guess you'd say I go to. But there's come a time, so, like, integrating the Jewishness into what I've always believed, and they're Jews for Jesus, so they pray about, mm, I'd say 12 years or so ago. I was like, "What am I supposed to be, though?" Like, I know they always say, "Only through me should you go before the Father," but it's still not saying, "So you gotta pray to me." And what I've learned on, embracing the Judaism was how the Bible wasn't so textbook like I thought growing up, and revisiting reading the Bible, and over and over, I realized different times in my life, I was like, "Dude, that story means something completely different to me." So then as I was growing and reading the Bible as an adult, and especially during wrestling, like, I was always in the word because I was freaked out the entire time. Unbeknownst to people, I was, like, privately always reading it. So anyways, it's been there with me in those journeys, and it made me relate to it differently. I was like, "Oh, it's like a parable." So then when I'm, like, questioning all these things, I'm just like, okay, and then it turned into, when I pray, I'd be like, "God, if I'm supposed to be praying through Jesus, I'm so sorry." Like, I literally say this to him. I'm like, "I'm so sorry. I'm not trying to disrespect you, but, like, I'm also not trying to disrespect you by doing that. Like, I don't know what to do. I need to sign. I need to sign. I need to sign." So that's where my doubting of my faith is Jesus. And, like, I've learned when I was more Christ-like, AKA Christian, being Christ-like, that's what made me be that well-balanced gal, especially that was when I went back into the indies, and people, you knew me around that time. People used to be like, "Oh, Shelly's so positive. She's so positive and this and that." And that's because I knew the Lord was using me to just give lights. That's it, nothing deep. I didn't have to have deep conversations with people, just giving the, even if it was just giving somebody a hug and that love radiated, and it wasn't from me, it
Mhm,
was the Lord.
mhm.
And I would openly talk about that stuff back in the day too. So I've been there, but then, like I said, like about 12 years ago, I'm like, wait a minute, am I supposed to be saying these prayers to Jesus or not? And I'm just like, that is my struggle. And then thirdly, I've died before. And my fear has been exactly what you said, detaching from my sister, because my sister is 9 years younger than me. I've been taking care of her since she was born. We have this bond forever and ever and ever, and my fear was, if I die, what if, like, I don't remember her because it's just a different state of being and this and that, and when I died, it freaked me out even more when I came
You
back.
you gotta talk to me about that for a second. When you say,
Yeah.
"I died," please explain that before you go further
Okay.
so I
I've been
understand.
very open about this.
Yeah.
So long story short, I used to date this actor, and he and we would like to, medicate and have wine. And I remember one night my wine looked weird. I don't know. That's all I remember. I was like, this looks weird. And then next thing I realized, it was the next day, like at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And when I remember that wine, it was like 9 o'clock at night the night before. So I go to take a shower, and then all of a sudden I come out of the shower and I just remember saying his name. And then all of a sudden I wasn't,
This is the next day at 4 o'clock.
yes.
Okay, okay.
So all of a sudden I am in this, I don't want to say room, and it's so cliche, but that's the only way I can describe it to the human brain so they can envision it. It's kind of like this infinite room with this blue hue, and then there was the light. And I remember I wasn't Shelly. It was weird. It was like I wasn't Shelly. I was just my soul. And so I remember hearing my thoughts, and I was saying, "This feels so good." And when I was saying that, there was this like warmth that I can't even explain to you because it wasn't a body physical feeling. It was this it was just this being, man, and I knew it felt so good, and then it was like, not the thought I had a choice, but the feeling. It was all feelings, no thought. It was just feeling thought didn't exist. Like, when I said I could hear my thoughts, it was like it's not like a movie where it was like a narrative, it was a feeling, but the only way I can describe it right now is saying thoughts because there was no words coming out, but it was all feelings. And the next feeling I got was you have a choice to continue to go or to go back. And then I remember looking down and I saw this girl and I felt so sorry for her. My heart broke for her. I didn't know why, but it felt like, oh God, I can cry right now.